Let's get right into it. Number 10. The fish in your neck. You've got gills. Well, you used to. Before you were a fully formed human, you were a tiny, blobby embryo that looked suspiciously like a tadpole. Around your neck area, you had slits, pharyngeal arches, that were basically the evolutionary leftovers of fish gills. They never actually function as gills in humans, but they stick around in early development just long enough to remind you that your ancestors once breathed underwater. As you grew, those gill slits didn't disappear, they transformed. Parts of them became bones in your jaw, muscles in your face, and even parts of your ear. So every time you chew food or hear a sound, you're kind of using ancient fish hardware that got repurposed by evolution. It's like your body said, this old model still works, just needs a firmware update. If you've ever wondered why the structure of your neck is so weirdly complicated, full of random tubes, nerves, and passages that seem to cross each other for no reason, well, that's why. You're built on a fish template that's been remodeled about a dozen times. Imagine taking an old car and trying to turn it into a drone. It technically flies, but the wiring is a nightmare. Basically, your neck is a plumbing disaster left over from your ocean days. Evolution doesn't design from scratch, it's the world's laziest engineer, duct taping new features onto ancient prototypes. Number 9. The Goosebump Problem. Goosebumps make no sense, unless you're a hairy ape. Which, plot twist, you used to be. When your ancestors had fur, goosebumps were a defense system. Tiny muscles at the base of each hair would contract, fluffing up the fur to trap heat or make you look bigger when scared. Think cat with puffed-up tail energy. Now, fast forward to you, modern, mostly hairless, sitting in a meeting room trying not to shiver when someone cranks the AC. Your little arm hairs rise like they're ready for battle, but the only thing they're intimidating is the PowerPoint slide. The real kicker is, your brain still thinks this reaction matters. The amygdala, the part that freaks out when you're cold or scared, still triggers the same puff up and survive command. The problem? You're missing the fur that made it useful. So all you get is a patchy rash of bumps that make you look like a plucked chicken. In other words, goosebumps are your body's version of sending a strongly worded email to a problem that doesn't exist anymore. Number 8. The tail you still have. You don't have a tail. Or do you? Hidden at the base of your spine is the coccyx, a weird little bone cluster that used to anchor your tail. Millions of years ago, it helped our primate ancestors balance, signal, and swat away insects. But when we started walking upright, the tail became dead weight, literally. Evolution chopped it down but forgot to delete the leftover code. Sometimes that code glitches. Every now and then, a baby is born with a tiny tail-like appendage. It's called a human vestigial tail, and yes, doctors can remove it. It's harmless, but deeply unsettling, like seeing the ghost of your evolutionary past hanging off your backside. The coccyx still does something. It helps anchor pelvic muscles, which is the biological equivalent of turning an old tail stump into a furniture support beam. But its structure, with its odd curve and vulnerability to injury, feels like evolution just said, leave it there. Someone might need it. So the next time you fall on your butt and bruise your tailbone, just remember, you're not clumsy, you're being punished for losing your tail privileges. Number 7. The useless goose of organs, your appendix. The appendix. That little worm-shaped organ sitting quietly near your intestines, doing absolutely nothing, until it suddenly tries to kill you. For decades, scientists thought it was a leftover digestive pouch from our leaf-chewing ancestors. Basically, early humans used it to help break down tough plant fibers. Then we discovered cheeseburgers, and the appendix got demoted to storage closet full of bacteria. But here's the twist, it's not completely useless. It actually serves as a kind of bacterial backup drive. When you get sick and your gut bacteria are wiped out, the appendix releases its own stash to repopulate your system. Still, evolutionarily speaking, it's a weird design choice. Like keeping a fire extinguisher that occasionally explodes. And if it gets infected? Well, congratulations, you've just met one of the most common reasons for emergency surgery. All because your ancestors liked eating grass. Basically, your appendix is that one coworker who doesn't do much, doesn't show up to meetings, but somehow manages to cause total chaos once a year. Number 6. The wisdom teeth time bomb. You know what's fun? Having teeth that literally don't fit in your face. Wisdom teeth are the molars of an older, hairier you, the kind of human who tore raw roots out of the ground and didn't own floss. Our ancient ancestors had bigger jaws because they needed the extra chewing power. Tough plants, uncooked meat, bark, yes, bark. It was a full-time jaw workout down there. But as cooking made food softer and tools replaced teeth, our jaws got smaller. Evolution trimmed the real estate but forgot to send the memo to the molars. So now, every adult gets the joy of watching their extra teeth try to force their way into a skull that's too small for them. It's like trying to fit a sofa into a studio apartment. You can do it, but something's going to break. Some people never grow wisdom teeth at all. Congrats, you're the future. But for the rest of us, they either stay trapped under the gums, grow sideways, or cause so much pain that dentists get rich off yanking them out. And because evolution is too lazy to delete outdated code, the cycle continues. You're born with prehistoric tools for a job you'll never need. Basically, your wisdom teeth are your body's version of that useless, agree to terms, button. Annoying, outdated, and somehow still mandatory. Number 5. The phantom tailbone reflex. Ever had your leg kick when a doctor taps your knee? That's a reflex, your body's automatic, hey, I'm alive, check. But deep in your lower spine, there's an even older reflex most people don't realize, the tailbone twitch. You can't feel it, but when certain spinal nerves are activated, they can still cause the tiny muscles near your coccyx to contract, as if you're trying to wag a tail you no longer have. It's like your body's ghost signal. The wiring is still there, waiting for a tail that's been gone for millions of years. Some animals still use the same nerve cluster to control their tails for balance or communication, but in humans, it's just an evolutionary prank left running in the background. Think of it like your body's old operating system occasionally glitching and trying to open a tail.exe file. Nothing happens, just a phantom twitch and a reminder that you were once much more waggable. So next time you sit weirdly and feel that odd tingle near your lower back, just know it's your tailbone's way of whispering, I miss being important. Number 4. The muscle that moves your ears, kind of. Try wiggling your ears. Go ahead, give it a shot. If you can, congrats, you just used one of your oldest, weirdest leftover muscles. If you can't, well, most of us can't either because evolution turned that skill into decorative hardware. Those tiny ear muscles, the auricularis group, used to help our ancestors swivel their ears toward sounds. Think of a dog perking up when it hears something sketchy outside. Early humans could probably do that too. But once our sense of direction and hearing improved, we didn't need to turn our ears manually anymore. So the muscles just stuck around like a pair of side mirrors on a car that no longer drives. You can still activate them if you focus really hard, but it's not very useful unless your goal is to slightly amuse people at parties. Basically, those ear muscles are your body's version of legacy code, pointless, but too intertwined to delete without breaking the system. Number 3. The blind spot in your eyes. You have a hole in your vision. Literally. Each eye has a tiny blind spot where the optic nerve connects to the retina. Your brain doesn't receive any image from that point, but instead of panicking about the existential horror of partial sight, your brain just fakes it. It fills in the gap with whatever color or texture surrounds it. It's one of evolution's biggest optical goofs. Squid and octopus eyes, for example, don't have this issue. Their retinas evolved in a more efficient direction. Ours? The nerve fibers had to go through the retina instead of behind it, leaving a hole right in the middle of the design. So, in essence, your eye is wired backward. Your brain, bless it, spends your entire life editing that out so you don't walk around thinking there's a portal of nothingness floating in front of you. You're basically living inside a slightly photoshopped version of reality, your own personal patchwork hallucination. If humans were designed from scratch, we'd have better eyes. But since we're hand-me-down survivors from a 500 million year experiment, we get the discount version. Thanks, evolution. Number 2. The Goosebump Remix, Hair That Won't Leave. Let's talk about body hair. Specifically, why you still have it. For something that barely keeps you warm and mostly just makes your shower drain cry, it's surprisingly persistent. Back when humans were fur-coated primates, hair was vital for insulation, protection, and even communication. A puffed-up coat meant, "I'm cold," or "I'm mad," a built-in emoji system. Then evolution decided to experiment with a sleeker, mostly naked design. Maybe it was better for cooling off in the African heat, or maybe we just wanted to show off our impressive skin game. Either way, we lost most of our fur, but not all of it. What's left is the evolutionary equivalent of a few sad strings of Christmas lights after the holiday's over. The weird part? Your hair still grows in the same patterns as a fully furry mammal. The follicles, oil glands, and growth cycles are all intact, just severely downgraded. Some patches, like your armpits and groin, stuck around because they help spread scent. Romantic, right? You're basically walking around with pheromone billboards. And that tiny fuzz on your arms and legs? That's vellus hair, a quiet reminder of your caveman sweater. It doesn't do much except collect goosebumps and make you wonder why evolution refuses to clean its workshop. If aliens ever studied us, they'd probably assume we're mid-mutation, halfway between hairless genius and confused ape. Honestly, they wouldn't be wrong. Number 1. The reptile in your brain. Deep inside your head lives a lizard. Not literally, hopefully, but evolutionarily speaking, part of your brain, the reptilian complex, is the same system our scaly ancestors used hundreds of millions of years ago. It controls survival basics: heartbeat, breathing, aggression, territory, fear. In other words, it's the part of you that freaks out when someone cuts in line or eats your leftovers. Above that sits the limbic system, the mammalian layer, responsible for emotions, bonding, and stress. And sitting on top, like a glorified project manager, is your prefrontal cortex, the rational, civilized part of your brain that writes apology texts after the reptile has already started a fight. The creepy part? That lizard still runs the show more often than you'd think. Every instinctive flinch, panic attack, or adrenaline rush starts there. Your big human brain just makes excuses after the fact. I wasn't scared, I was just startled. Sure. Tell that to your amygdala. Evolution didn't replace the old hardware. It just stacked new layers on top, like putting a fancy smartphone interface over a flip phone's processor. So even though you can build rockets and compose poetry, part of you still thinks in terms of fight, flee, or hiss. Basically, you're a lizard wearing a mammal suit trying to act like a philosopher. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.